Marketer of the Day, episode 705. Relax, refresh, re-energize. Overcome stress, anxiety, and fears with personal development coach Peggy Sealfon. Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Marketer of the Day podcast. We are here with return guest Peggy Sealfon, and her past appearance here was at marketeroftheday.com/221. And Peggy Sealfon is an internationally recognized personal development coach. She's a speaker and author, and she compels you to supercharge your life, and she shows you how to kickstart a happier and healthier lifestyle with many tools in her toolbox. And we're talking about things like stress, anxiety, and fears, and the things that often hold you back from realizing your dreams. And Peggy's cutting edge methods help you quickly undo those blocks that are preventing you from living the life that you truly want and deserve. And her wide scope of trainings in both Western and Eastern traditions blend into special approaches to overcome any challenge. So Peggy, been a long time. Glad to talk to you again.
It has been a long time, and I really feel honored to have a repeat appearance on your show. So thank you, Robert, for inviting me again.
Yeah, well, you're very welcome. And as you know, sometimes we figure out our place in life, we figure out our special secret sauce, but then things move so quickly these days with the internet and social media that next thing you know, 2 or 3 years pass and now we have a new focus. So has anything changed just off the top of your mind in the past 2 or 3 years? Like, is there anything new that are cutting edge that's happened in the last couple of years since we last spoke?
For me personally, or in general in the world?
Either or both.
So personally, I've actually been really excited to see some of the changes between technology and science. And in the area I live in Southwest Florida, which we call the Paradise Coast, we have a lot of cutting edge practitioners and services that don't really yet exist in other places in the world. So 2.5 years ago, actually, I launched BeWellInParadise.com, which is the hub for health and wellness. And we have such an incredible coordination, collaboration, cooperation amongst all the different venues in our area. And we're really the only area in the world so far that's really doing a county-wide approach to wellness. So we have so many different kinds of opportunities. And in January, I'll do this terrible plug for our second annual Paradise Coast Wellness Experience. It'll be January 10th to 12th. So it's a great time to really either kick off a healthy lifestyle or keep your New Year's resolutions alive and well, and learning new things and getting to experience new activities. So I know I've given you a mouthful for a quick question, right?
That's okay. There's a lot to dig into. Yeah. And I can tell. And so when you say that, it makes me think of like, it seems like even still there's that disconnect between like the literal, physical, medicinal stuff that happens, like the MD kind of region. And then there's also the kind of more, I don't know if you call it foo-foo, but like more of like the gentle mindset kind of stuff. Like, do you see that kind of thing? Like, it's like
Absolutely.
It's hard to take the holistic stuff seriously, even though in the traditional medicine, there's things that are not covered, and it's like hard to like get both and fill in the middle ground, right?
Well, and actually I trained in functional nutrition and functional medicine with Mark Hyman. And some of what we're seeing in medical circles and in science is now the integration and the recognition that, you know, the mind really has this powerful connection over the body, and we can heal ourselves with our mind. We can manifest things with our mind. Thoughts are energy, dreams are energy. And, you know, as marketers, it's really important to be aware of that, because we can use that to our advantage and be even better at what we do.
Yeah, I agree completely. And so, speaking to that, do you have any fun stories in the last couple of years of like a type of person, or maybe even a specific person that you've helped lately who maybe was like forgotten by the system or fell through the cracks, but they came to you and you solved some really helpful problems in their lives?
so many. It's almost hard to pick just one, to be honest. I mean, I worked with a guy who his business was crumbling, and he was panicked that not only would he lose his business, but he'd lose his wife, he'd lose his lifestyle. And so obviously he couldn't sleep, insomnia crept in, and he was really headed for either a stroke, a heart attack. I mean, he was getting obese because when you don't sleep, cortisol releases all these hormones, you crave carbohydrates, you gain weight. And so I started working with him and teaching him ways of really being present in the moment, taking time out for himself. I gave him a technique that I call yoga Nidra, which is a yogic sleep that in just 20 minutes is equivalent to 3 to 4 hours of deep restorative sleep. So he started doing that. Every night he would listen to these recordings that I made for him, and he would listen 3-4 times. And by the morning he would be okay enough to function well enough that he righted his business, he righted his life, and now he has a whole chain of places. I mean, he's doing really, really well. So that was really exciting and rewarding, and encouraging that, again, anything that isn't working in one's life can be changed. And it just takes some awareness and vigilance and some tools.
Awesome. Yeah, because it seems like that's a common problem, right? Like there's maybe like phase one is a problem of not being too into the business. And then maybe phase two is just being too whole hog and being like 24 hours a day, not sleeping, trying to land those deals, make the websites, make the product work. And then maybe phase three, the final phase, is to figure out how to balance all that. And so I think that's and that's really interesting that you created this kind of program, so to speak, where with this specific person, he couldn't speak, and you made this thing where he could get the equivalent of the sleep without the sleep. So can you like unpack that and tell us like what exactly is it that you created here?
Well, actually, I didn't create it. It's an ancient yogic practice, as you mentioned in the intro. I've really combined Eastern and Western traditions. And so that's one of them. I've trained with a world-renowned yogi master, Sri Amritji, and he's known as Yogi Amrit Desai. And he was really one of the pioneers bringing yoga to the West back in the 1960s. And that I literally was a AAA personality. I was go, go, go until I crashed and burned, literally and figuratively. And so when I first experienced this particular practice with Yogi Desai, I could not believe how magical it felt. And it felt like drugs without drugs. And actually, you are activating your own inner pharmaceutical hormones and balancing, really activating all the dormant healing powers in your own body when you do Yoga Nidra. So I've actually had doctors send me patients who are dealing with some major challenges, and they tend to improve, they get better. So what Yoga Nidra is a very orchestrated approach to taking you into deep levels of relaxation. It is a sleep-based meditation, but I've had people who come from doctors who say, well, I can't do yoga. And I ask them, well, can you sit in a chair or lie down? And they say, yes, I can do that. Then you can do this, because it's guided. So you close your eyes and you just listen basically to my guidance. And it just takes you into these different levels of consciousness, which is where you relax and restore when you go to sleep at night. So it mimics sleep, only you're conscious. And yet the benefits are like the benefits of deep restorative sleep. So it's amazing. For me, when I first experienced it, being from New York City and, just so high energy all the time, it was transformational. And it is really, I have to say, what kind of guided me into this work of wellness was I thought, people need to know about these approaches and be able to incorporate them into their lives.
Right. And I mean, in this day and age where we can access, on YouTube or access any recording or video, what's the harm in trying something out for a couple of weeks to see if it works or not? And, something you mentioned there is, you made me think of like how things have changed, because I feel like when I was in my 20s, I was more focused on more and more. And now that I'm in my 30s, I'm thinking in terms of how can I kind of relax and refresh and re-energize during the downtime, so that way I can naturally have the energy to come back when I'm rested. And that's kind of like the opposite way of thinking, right? Like sometimes we think, oh, I need to like pound the caffeine, or I need to like stay awake for 3 days straight to get things done. And these days I'm thinking more in terms of like, well, how can I relax during my downtime so that way I can make more of the uptime, and it's like kind of a better way of thinking, right? It seems more sustainable than just trying to pour more gasoline on the fire.
Well, you figured it out, and that a lot of people haven't. And really, it's about balance. So that's exactly the key, is when you realize that, oh gosh, I'm really tired, I have to have another cup of coffee. No, that's the time to take a break. And I even have that little 3-minute to de-stress audio that I encourage people to use as a little break. So it's just at 3minutes to de-stress.com, and it's free. They can download it. And what that does is exactly what you just described. It interrupts that pattern of go, 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 because we really, as human beings, biologically, we cannot function at that level. And when we try to, that chronic stress actually suppresses our immune system. It also undermines our ability to think clearly, to remember things. So it's not productive. So just by taking a few minutes out, it really restores, renews, revitalizes, and allows us to perform at a higher level. So bravo to you that you figured that out, because that it's really about balance.
Well, I'm still figuring things out every single day, as you are too, right? We're never 100% to a godlike status. And so along those lines, as far as what you yourself have figured out in your own personal life, does anything come to mind as far as just like you specifically, and like your own personal challenges, struggles, things that you have overcome just in your own life, in your own day-to-day sort of stuff?
Absolutely. I think it really boils down to not letting your mind control everything and not letting your emotions take over. And I think, being female, we tend to be much more emotionally reactive to situations, although obviously men suffer as well. But what happens when we allow these emotional reactions to take over is, once again, it really depletes us, because those emotions have an energetic drain, a low vibrational frequency. And again, if we hold on to those emotions, especially, at the end of the year, coming into holiday seasons, tends to really amp up, because we're spending more time with family and friends that we might not normally be spending extended periods of time with. So it makes it even more challenging. And so I've learned how to be the observer, how to not let myself just be carried away by an emotional reaction. And sometimes when I notice myself reacting in certain ways, I'll kind of pause and think, okay, wait a minute, is this my ego or is this reality? And I really try to see reality as it is, instead of through all the preconditioning and pre-programmed stuff that I've accumulated throughout my life, as we all do. We all tend to be guided by experiences we've had, but they're not necessarily the truth. So it boils down to finding what's really the truth and really being present in the moment. And if it's a relationship situation, it's being with who you're with and really being wholly and fully there with them.
Yeah, and I think you're really speaking my language, and you're making me think of all of these maybe, I don't know if like a mini breakthrough or a mini aha is a thing, but in the past, I don't know, even 6 months or so, I kind of came to the realization that for so many years, what motivated me was anger. What motivated me was maybe I was kind of like not feeling like getting a lot done in my business, and I would purposefully go to Facebook groups or message boards and try to find someone that was doing something similar to me or maybe better than me. And I would get kind of angry and be like, oh my gosh, they're doing better than me. And that would drive me into action. And I realized that especially in like mid to late 20s, I would do a lot of that. And at the time I thought, well, that was the only thing that worked, right? I thought that was what drove me into action. And I realized that was like taking, car battery jumper cables and just like putting them on my chest. Like that kind of worked to jumpstart, but is that sustainable? Is that something that's going to work again and again? Maybe not. And so it took, years, maybe even a decade plus to tap into like, okay, it's good that drive is there, but maybe there's a better path or a better like vehicle or mechanism to get there. And just it brought back all, like with all the psychology stuff, it always brings back the childhood bad memories, right? And it reminded me of like when I was a kid learning baseball, my dad always used to yell at me to like do better in baseball, and I hated it, but he saw it as a way to get results. And I realized that as an adult, I was kind of like yelling at myself to play baseball better, and just like it kind of gave you a jump start. But is that a way to live your whole life? Is one jump start after another? I mean, probably not, right?
That is so interesting. So, and that so is to the point because we develop these childhood patterns and we default to them because that's what we know. And it's really not healthy for us in the long run. In fact, anger is a very depleting emotion and it really knocks out our ability to think clearly or really see things as they are. And in fact, there's a great study that actually illustrates this that was done by a Dr. Masaru Emoto. He's been doing this for years, but it's really interesting. What he did was he took water and he would say words over the water like fear or anger or love. And then he would freeze the water and you would see the results of that word on the water in the way it froze. So like fear and anger was like really ugly and, just disorganized. And when he would say words like love or gratitude, it was like beautiful, harmonious, like snowflakes and white. I mean, it was just fascinating how those energies affect us. And then there's other studies that actually show how different parts of the body light up depending on the emotions. And so you're really depleting organs and you're, pulling things out of specific areas like kidneys and, areas that we need to kind of process everything balanced and harmoniously, and it really interrupts our natural biological function. So, but great that you recognize that because most people don't stop to pay attention to that and they just keep repeating the patterns again and again. And as we get older, those patterns get deeper and harder to, break ourselves from. So once again, bravo, Robert.
Thank you. Luckily, I caught it early before it got too set in the clay. And so you're saying that, it's important for us to catch these things and correct before it's too late or before it gets before we're too set in a certain pattern. So what would you say for the busy entrepreneur looking to make a change, feel better, be more sustainable? What's like a good first step, like to kind of dip our toe into the water? Should we start looking up some of these like self-help videos on YouTube or listening to motivational podcasts, or like what's an easy way to start getting on the right path here?
So there's lots of different ways. I call these processes or practices interrupters, that you interrupt those patterns. And it takes 21 to 90 days to create new patterns. So nothing is irreversible, but it does take a little work and a little vigilance and a little wanting to interrupt it. And my book, Escape from Anxiety, has over 100 strategies that can interrupt those patterns. I think one of the simplest, though, would be, and this one I don't even have in the book, but would be to do like a 10 count breathing exercise. So you would just pause when you notice it and kind of change your focus and just interrupt the feeling and the whole sensory reactions that you're having to that experience in that moment. And you just breathe in and you count. So 10, I am breathing in. 10, I am breathing out. 9, I am breathing in. 9, I am breathing out. And you just count through that. And by the time you get to 3 or 2, the feelings are gone and you've oxygenated your body. You've brought more balance biologically, harmoniously. Vital life force energy has been stimulated. So you've benefited and you've changed that pattern. And so if you can just, when you get stuck in traffic and you're all aggravated because you're late and why is there so much traffic? If you just pause to do some deep, slow breathing, that literally signals the nervous system to calm down and it will help you interrupt those patterns. That's just a simple way. Obviously, there's more complex and complicated. That's why I'm a coach, because I work with people to help them identify, what's going on and what they need to do to make it work for them and to be sustainable. That's the key. Can't do it once or twice.
Right. You can't just try it once and say I'm cured forever. It's like these repeat habits that we have to get set on ourselves. And as you're explaining all this, it brings me back to that whole idea that we're still running caveman and cavewoman software, right?
Yeah.
We're still one step above the Neanderthals. We're still running. Our bodies were the way they were 100,000 years ago, and now we're living in this rapidly changing world of being stuck in traffic and being in the cars and sitting at the computers. So maybe we have to develop some strategies to outsmart the caveman mind, which is kind of okay because at least the caveman mind is simple enough that it can be outsmarted, right? As long as we learn some of these tricks and techniques and know what tools to use in the toolbox. And so you mentioned that you have your book, Escape from Anxiety. And so can you tell us, like, if people listening here were impressed or at least had some next steps to go to here to get out of the hole or the pattern they're stuck in, can you tell us about some of your books or websites or programs or just things that we can look into to kind of continue on this path here?
Absolutely. So Escape from Anxiety, Supercharge Your Life with Powerful Strategies from A to Z literally has bite-sized strategies that people can use. And there's over 100 of them in the book. And then the second part of the book helps you develop your own kind of strategic protocol in order to really sustain whatever works for you, because we're all a little different in terms of what we respond to. So it's really important to try some different things and see, well, what works for you and what can you really incorporate in your life. And then I did a compilation of the teachings of the yogi master, Yogi Amrit Desai, and that's a real deep dive into understanding mind, body, and really understanding how we work. And it gives a quantum breath meditation. And that one's called Embodying the Power of the Zero Stress Zone. And these are all on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. And then I have a lot of free material on my website at peggysealfon.com. So one of the things right on the homepage is Put a Smile in Your Heart. And it's an audio. It's under 10 minutes. And it's just kind of a break, a timeout. And when your heart is smiling, when you're calm, when you're relaxed, you're actually able to do so much more with so much less energy. So just taking that 10-minute time out can really restore and renew and help you really perform at your peak. And that's, allows you to be healthier and happier and have better relationships. It just impacts every part of your life when you're more balanced and more integrated. So then I also have an integrated life coaching program that I offer, and people can find that at integratedlifeplan.com. But I like to promote a lot of my free stuff because I really want people to put their toe in the water and just try something and see how it feels for them, because that's the key. You've got to find what resonates with you and what works with your belief system, your lifestyle. And that's why I've been so blessed, really, to be able to have studied in so many different kinds of traditions that I can always find areas of commonality with my clients. And I can always find, and I've worked with youngsters as young as 6 and oldsters as old as 90. So it's fun to be able to find the key that unlocks someone's greatest potential.
Well, fantastic. And as you said, we're all unique. We all have different attributes. But on the other hand, it's all been seen before, right? Like, we just have to go and try different things and see what works for us, and maybe hang on to what works and let go of what doesn't, and always be curious and always be experimenting and figure out what we need to get that pause, get that breath, to slow down, to recenter, and to become the greatest person that we know that we need to be and can be. And as you said, your websites are peggysealfon.com and integratedlifeplan.com. And if someone says, I really want to get on the fast track, I really want to have like a one-on-one conversation with Miss Peggy and figure out how can we pay for a conversation or figure out some kind of a personal coaching? Is that an option for you too?
Oh, absolutely. I do a lot of coaching, and I coach people all over the world. I use Zoom, Skype, phone. So yes, absolutely. And they can contact me through my website at peggysealfon.com. And I even have a free consultation on there. They can also go to escapefromanxiety.com, and there's a free coaching on there. And there's 10 things to help interrupt stress and anxiety that you can just download for free. So just lots of stuff to make it available. I mean, mean, I feel so fortunate that I've learned the things that I've learned, and I'm always learning, as you say. It's a nonstop process, and it's one of the things I happen to love. I mean, I really am enjoying learning all these new technologies as new things are coming on board. But at the end of the day, it's really about sharing it with others, because when we help one another, we make a difference in the world, and we make all of us work together in a better way. And that's what my Be Well in Paradise is all about. It's really getting everybody kind of on the same page, working together to help more people and to make an impact.
Well, fantastic. Well, in this day and age, with all the information circulated, there's no reason to be left out in the dark as far as getting the help that you need. And as Peggy said, there's also escapefromanxiety.com. So there are tons of little freebies that you can go grab. So if you're the kind of person where you listen to this episode and you said, that sounds good, but I think I'll pass. I mean, you're only missing out yourself, right? Like there are resources, there are websites you can go and take the next step and sign up and opt in and get some of these free things and just see where it leads and see if it helps you a little bit. If it helps you 1% or 10%, then maybe you can say, well, maybe every morning I'll set aside those 10 minutes a day to do that mindfulness meditation or some of that yoga stuff, or the what's it called, the yoga nidra,
yoga nidra, yogic sleep.
Yoga nidra.
Yeah,
so
that is just amazing. I mean, I've even been on long car trips, where I'm driving like 10, 12 hours, and I'll stop in the middle of that and just go park in a corner somewhere and listen for 20 minutes. And I feel like I've had a night's sleep. It's just amazing how it revitalizes you.
Well, that specifically, I'm going to look into that, because that sounds like super cool to play some of those things while we're sleeping and just get a short amount of time, but all the benefits of sleep. And in this day and age, with all the research being done and, people uncovering these things from millennia past, from all these wise people from all of history, all the information is at our disposal. So it's up to us to go and see what we can absorb and see what works for us. So the place to do that is PeggySealfon.com. And anything to throw out here, Peggy, to maybe wrap up this conversation and put a button on it and just give us like one final sentence, one very inspiring message to make us feel good and get in the right direction here?
So I like to point people into the direction of this thought that happiness is an inside job. And I think too often we're looking for happiness outside of ourselves or looking for love from someone else instead of cultivating it within ourselves. If you want love, be more loving. If you want respect, be more respectful. So I believe that we can manifest whatever we want, but it starts within us, and it's cultivating that. So thank you, Robert. This has been so fun to be with you.
Thank you, Peggy. And it was a lot of fun to catch up with you. And you're so right. Happiness is an inside job. There's that saying of someone... if you have a bad attitude, you can see a whole rose garden and find the one thorn. So it's up to us to see the good in things. I mean, we're literally living in the best possible time to be alive in all of human history. So why not make the best of it and go to PeggySealfon.com. That way you can see all the good in your life and see all the wonderful things that are ahead of you in the future. PeggySealfon.com. We'll see you there. And thanks, Peggy, for stopping by and for imparting just truckloads of wisdom for us here today.
Thank you, Robert. It really has been a joy to be here. This is great conversations, and I hope your listeners really do take advantage of what's available. So thank you again.
Thank you. I hope so too. Today's episode is sponsored by DoneForYouPodcasting.com. Is your podcast not what it should be? What if you could simply show up and have a team deal with content, outreach for guests, editing, production, social media traffic, and more? Check out DoneForYouPodcasting.com.